Okay, this video is about assembling the SNES flash cart programmer. It's a programming device that I made to program the Super Nintendo flash carts that I also make, which is here. Though these are going to be open source, where you can download and make your own. At the end of the video, I'll put some links regarding this. But there's kind of a lot to cover, so I am going to try and speed things up. But this is just basically an how-to video. So I've already seated the pads with solder. You can see that there's already solder on them. So, but seating the pads is pretty easy. And I'll kind of show you how to do that in a minute. So first thing I like to do is I like to put the chips on first. And so I've got a microchip 18F45K50. And it's obviously going to go right here. My eyesight is really bad, so I may need to put on some magnifiers here to get this done. And anyways, this chip goes on here. I put a little flux on it already. So I'm just going to line the chip up as close as I can. And then I'm going to use my hot air tool to solder it down. So the chip's got a little orientation notch right here, and on the board you can see a little orientation dot right there. So putting on the surface mount chips is probably the most difficult part of the build. But really, if a little bit of practice, it's not so bad. And also, if you notice, there's a 40-pin dip version you can also put on. So if you're not very good at surface mount with the QFN part, then there's the 40-pin option. Until the chip likes to move around a little bit in the flux. It's kind of floating on the flux until a couple of pins get soldered down. And then it should kind of center itself just as the pads get molten. It should center itself. If it doesn't, you can kind of nudge it, but it looks pretty good. That's pretty centered. So, okay. Then the next one we're going to do is the latch. So same thing. I'm going to get it lined up and then bake it on. Okay, that looks pretty good. All right. So now we've got a variety of resistors and capacitors, and we will put those on. So here's my box of parts. I've already kind of sorted the parts out. I'm going to put the caps on first, I think. And again, these are pretty easy. Most of the time they don't even need flux. But I might go back over them. with the flux, kind of a final reflow process. Capacitors are all the same. Man, eyes are getting bad these days. Hope you guys can see this. So these are all the capacitors, and they are all the same. Now the resistors are different varieties. So R4, 5, and 16 are 150. Okay, so R4, this one, oops. R5. Oops. Keep flying off here. And R16, which is right here. I like to put the resistors on first and the surface mount stuff because of the high heat. I don't like the switches or the connectors to get exposed to that. Okay, so R15 is 4.7. Okay, R15, this one. R6 is 1K. So R6 right here. And then R15 is 4.7. I already did that one. Edit. No. I've got a bunch of 10Ks. Okay, so 7, 9, 10, 13, 14. So, come here. My head is getting in the way, I'm sorry. Gotta be able to see these things. Okay. 7, 9, 10, 13, 14. 7, 9, 10, 13, 14. So 14's down here. Seven's right here. Alright, those all look pretty good. I'm just going to put a little bit of flux on these caps here. Just kind of reflow those real quick. So they didn't look like they didn't have a real good solder base, I guess. Okay. That is all we're going to do with the heat gun. Now we have a USB port to put on. It's a B style USB, type B. I made this back before USB-Cs or were even available, so just stuck with it. The cables are cheap and easy to find. They're like $1 or $2 for a short one. Okay. We got a power switch. Our switch goes right here, and it's hard to tell, but the power switch orientation is look for the wider part here than here. It's a little bit wider, so that's how I kind of tell which way it's oriented. So I'm going to take the wider part and it's be closest to the corner hole there. I'm going to I'm just going to start one hole, and then I'm just going to put a little more pressure so it sits, make sure the switch sits flat. Okay, so okay, so now we've got the it's a right angle double pull 3 throw switch. It's going to go right here. Okay. Again, I'm gonna put one. These are kind of tricky, so I'm going to put just one hole with solder, and then I'm going to just kind of put a little pressure on the whole switch so the whole thing seats well. And then we'll solder the rest of the pins. Probably could have done this before the video, but why not? Okay. All right. So now, this won't take very long at all. So we have really three different connector options. Now, just for cost purposes, I use this 50 pin. Well, just edge connector. Now, this edge connector and the holes in my board here. So these are kind of the universal holes where, even though there's not normally 50 pins, here, and the SNES circuit board is wider than 50 pins, if you can see there. See, it's wider. But when we put it all together, then the top piece will center it, because these are 2.54 millimeter pitch, and the original SNES connector is 2.5 millimeter pitch, and so there's a little bit of drifting that happens with the pins, but with the 2.54, but if you center it up, then it's fine. So, and then there's another aftermarket one that's like this, that I'm not sure where this came from, but I picked this up a while back. It was a brand new one. That was the part number. So anyways, for now, since this will probably be the most common build, since it's the least expensive, is I'll use this 50 pin connector, just so you can see how it all kind of lines up. Okay, so get there. So what I'm gonna do is just for completeness sake, what I'm gonna do is, you don't have to do this. You don't have to bolt this thing on, but I'm going to. And these are number 4 screws. So, key to this, and the reason why I do this is this connector needs to be absolutely flat and straight on here. So okay. All right, so flat and straight. Again, you don't need to do these, but you know, why not? Okay, so now I am going to solder these things on, and I probably should have thought this through a little more, but it's okay. So we'll go this way. So I'm going to put some tape over these holes. Just put another piece of tape here to kind of loosely, keep it from moving around too much. So the nice thing about solder is that it only sticks to what it's supposed to stick to. So I can just kind of, kind of drag solder, and that'll take care of it. My phone's kind of at a weird angle, so I hope this video turns out okay. All right, so we got the next set here. Yeah, I do not have a third hand. Do not have professional video skills. I'm pretty bad at it, actually, so hope this turns out. Okay. I've seen people, and I used to do the same thing. I'd do, point to point, just solder one, the next. And once you learn the drag technique, it goes pretty quick. Okay. Okay, so now this is on. And again, this connector is too wide, but when you put the top on, this little slot is going to line you up just perfectly. See, there's no movement left or right on this slot. So when this gets put on, it'll line up perfectly. So now what I'm going to do is, well, no, let me go ahead and just go ahead and take this. So now I've got these posts, and so I'm going to put these posts on, and these posts are exactly the height, you know, of the connector. And these posts are pretty much an exact fit for these holes. So when they're in and lined up, they are golden. There's really no wiggle room, and it helps line everything up real nice and easy and tight. Okay, so I'm just put these posts on, and there's 6 total. There's 2 more. Okay. So now we have some LEDs to put in. So before we put the top on, we have to put these LEDs in, but we're just going to put them in loose. If you notice that this LED right here, it's got the shortest leg goes in the square hole. So each hole, one of them is a square. So we're just going to put that in. So this one goes in here. Yellow goes in the middle. Green goes in the end. And then another red one. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put the top on. And I'm just going to do these screws here first. Where's my screwdriver? Okay. I'm going to put these on first. I'm going to make them snug. And then I'm going to push the LEDs to their respective holes. Sure hope this video turns out. Do not want to have to do it again. Okay. Now you can see that that fits very, very nicely. You know, and it's centered on that larger connector. So, all right, so we have a power cap. Cap goes on the power switch button. Just presses on. Okay, and we got some more screws up here. Now we need to program the microcontroller. It's kind of the last step. Okay, so I already have my PIC kit 4 from Microchip already lined up and ready. And so where this arrow, that's VPP. So on the back of this, you just line it up with that VPP here, like this. Okay, and I'll just show you the program. Yeah, so this is the program, MPLab, IPE, and you know, I've got the chip there. I've loaded the firmware, and I just hit program. Program complete. All right, that's all you do. Okay, so this is done. Now let's test it. Okay, so I got my USB connector connected. Got my board put in. Turn it on. Now up comes a USB window. Okay, and then you can see that this doesn't really show it, does it? When this LED is lit, then it's in green's low, you know, red's high, and then you want it off for auto. So when it's in auto and your cart has these chips on it, then it can automatically detect what it is. So now we're going to recycle it. Okay, so it comes up because I know the cart's in high map. All right, so I'm just going to right click on it. I'm going to delete. So the window will go away. And then in about, I don't know, 20, 30 seconds. So in the middle LED is going to flash. And then the green LED basically says, I'm busy, don't mess with me. And this other one's just cartridge power. So when you're actually writing something, the yellow LED will turn on. And so when it's done erasing the chip, then the window will reset. Okay, and then see it says recognize it as a high ROM map. You can dump the SRAM if there is SRAM, but you can't write it back yet. All right, so I've got a Donkey Kong 3, my favorite game of all time. Just drag and drop, and away it goes. So let's see what else. So it'll take a couple of minutes for that to write. So in cases like if I have my cartridge like this where there's no mapping chips. There's no 139s. So in this case, I would have to use the switch down here to tell it what map it is. It's going to assume everything's high map, but if I want a low map game, I'm going to have to slide this over, force it to go into low map. So that's the reason why that switch is there, is to kind of force it into high map, low map. So, and then the last part is kind of optional, kind of depends which version you get. They've got these little wings here. These little wings go like this, and they cover the connector to keep dirt and gunk out of it. So it's kind of optional, but you know, it's up to you if you want to put them on or not. All right, so this thing's almost done. Now the programmer does have kind of a hot swap quasi detection. Kind of works. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Not really sure why. So every now and then, you know, when you pull a card out and you put a new one in, you'll hear it, you know, reset on its own. But if it doesn't, then you just, you know, power cycle the power button there. All right, so the writing's done, the green light's off. So let's go ahead and pull it out. Put it on my messy desk. There's Donkey Kong 3. My favorite game of all time. So, and that is how you put the programmer together. Wasn't too bad. Okay, this is just a continuation. I said earlier in the video that I would show you how I seed the solder onto the surface mount pads. So solder is pretty neat stuff, and you know, to put it on the pads, you just kind of wipe it on like that. You know, you don't. It's not a big skill. It's not rocket science. It's you just kind of wipe it on, and solder sticks to where it's supposed to, and doesn't stick to where it's not supposed to. And so this is essentially, you know, how you do it. Just you seed the pads with solder, and then, you know, that's it. I mean, just, and then you mount your parts. And a lot of times the solder has flux in it, and so that kind of residual flux that you can kind of see here on the board, that most of the time is enough, you know, for your hot air, you know, to mount the parts. But you know, if you need flux or extra flux, or if your world revolves around flux, then this is what I use. So yes, earlier I showed you the programmer, and so this segment I'll show you some different iterations of the programmer. So like, for example, this one uses the DIP 40 chip, and otherwise it's the same. It's the same part, same board. It's just, instead of the UQFN package surface mount, you can mount a DIP 40 in here. So someone with low skills, probably the biggest problem they'd have is mounting this small TSOP chip here. Everything else is pretty much hand solderable. So, and even the TSOP shouldn't be too difficult, you know, after you watch a couple of YouTube videos. You could put that on by, you know, with just a regular iron if you have flux. And so, okay, so this this version of the build or board, I'm using the SNES connector. So it's got these, wings off to the side, and I took the center post out because I wanted to be able to put my cartridge, on it, so my circuit board is, in a SNES case. So, so you wouldn't really be able to do this with the other ones because the connectors are wider, and you'd have a hard time lining this up. But since this is an aftermarket SNES connector, then I can do this pretty confidently. Just remember that the front of the circuit board faces, the programmer chips, but if it's in a case, the front of the case will be facing backwards. You can see it fits right on the side of the posts. So, and then the last one I'll show you is this. So this one I built with, this has what I call an OEM Super Nintendo connector. So I bought these a long time ago from MCM Electronics, and I don't remember what I paid for them, but I got a small stash of them. So so anyway, so this is kind of the same philosophy where I cut the top board, cut that top part off so it would fit right here. I use shorter standoffs. These are 7/16, so they fit, right above the USB port, and then I also have a low profile RJ11 port, Ethernet port. So, anyways, but this is the same thing where if I want to put the cartridge on, it fits. So, I can put my circuit board on here, and being an original connector, it just lines up easier. So I don't need the top part to center and line up everything because it's an original connector. So you only really need this top piece when you use that larger connector width. It's 50 pins versus 46, and so this top slot keeps everything lined up properly. So anyways, last thing I'm going to show you is an original cartridge. Now this will be covered more on the video that I'm going to make showing me assembling these cards. I have a couple of videos already about these, but I have a final version that's been refined and tweaked, and so I'll make a separate video that kind of details that in a little more detail. But this is an adapter board that I make, and let's see. So this was kind of an older version. This one is the T-SOP, that marries to the backside of an original cartridge, and so the ones that I'm making now are really thin. Where did it go? Anyway, so this one works in the programmer also if you make this one little jumper wire connection from there to there. That's the right line, or right enable. And so so this one works on the programmer as well. So if you ever mount one of these things, then you can go back and reprogram it. And then this one here is the I don't know if you can see it, but this actually has two of these adapters, one stacked on top of the other. and it is, so this would be what's called an extended high ROM. And so, anyways, so 6 megabytes currently is what it's capable of doing. And this is complete. This does work, and it is reprogrammable in the programmer. So, just like I showed yesterday, you know, drag and drop and delete. So, anyways, that is it for the programmer. I just wanted to show some variations and varieties of, this is what I showed earlier, and so I just wanted to just kind of talk about some of the other variations that can be done, could be done. I have no idea where you can buy the SNES like original style connectors. I'm sure they're out there somewhere. Probably AliExpress. So, you know, there's lots of possibilities. I mean, if you use this one here, and I'll take a Dremel and I'll cut these little legs off. And, oh, and someone asked me the other day, you know, what are these four holes in the corners? You know, I've got 1, 2, you know, 3, 4, and those are for like bench mount. You know, if you wanted to bench mount this thing to the wall or to the, you know, I don't know, let your imagination go wild, but those 4 holes were just for secure mounting it on something. So, or if you wanted to be like rose-colored gaming, you know, they probably made a plastic acrylic, you know, see-through acrylic case for it, and probably use those holes. So, but that is pretty much it. All right, well, that's it.